So I practice, I sit, I chant, I mantra, I play the drums. I do these formal...
I'm not sure that's a good idea. Go ahead.
So these formal things that are traditionally and maybe not so traditionally engaged in for the purpose of becoming enlightened, becoming realized, shedding karma, completing karma. I do these things because I feel like they need to be done. I have a certain type of seeker-ness that needs to be completed, musician-ness that needs to be completed. But this doesn't seem to be the way to what you might call ultimate realization. These are just steps.
Okay, so this is your commentary on it. Okay.
Yeah.
Based upon what you think you heard.
Right, and so
Right.
my question is, how does the daily practice, the moment-to-moment practice, relate to what you might call some form of ultimate realization or ultimate completion?
Is that the question?
Yeah.
Or is that the answer? You're asking a question with an answer? Oh, well. So there is no enlightenment. See? A value if you're seeking it. You're seeking a change of state, not the real practice. Letting go of self, see, intoxication, and ambition, right? And self-attaining, all the rest of that. Letting go of that, throwing that in the garbage. If you can see it, it's maybe good practice. Not that it's going to guarantee anything, but it's good practice. See? Just good practice. See? I think somewhere along the teachings they equate nirvana with no suffering. It means dead. So when are you willing to be dead? To know what it is? Rather than being preoccupied with doing a little bit here and a little bit there in hopes of like the future time, looking into another galaxy. And boom, yeah, I see myself up there in that other galaxy, you know, with the robes and the sandals and all of the appearances of what you might think enlightenment is, whatever it is. Because what you're saying betrays the, let's say, the value of what nothing is, which may equate more with potential enlightenment than anything else you might do, or think, say, or search for, or hope for, or pray for with all your might. Please help me to not be me. I'm my worst issue, worst enemy, big problem. Not true. Talking about the blood. The blood is not the problem. The blood is a big issue because we're talking about programs, mechanical programming. So going deeper beyond the programming is the big question. See, can you see beyond? Can you hear beyond? See, can you be in a situation where yourself, your ego, or whatever that is, image, is not validated, like with girlfriends, right? You can count on them to validate your self-programming, see, and reinforce it, because that's all they know how to do. Male friends too, because it's the level of reality between most beings who not interested in practicing, don't know what it is to practice, don't see beyond. And in this case, hear beyond, not just see beyond, but hear beyond. That's the more important thing. If we can call it a perception or practice, that's more important. Right there. You don't exist right there, see? Here, there's no one here. So then, genuine practice, if there is such a thing, is the closing of the gap between self and desired. See? The self and the ambition. See? The hope, wishes, and dreams for this heavenly state of enlightenment or no more problems, which is present. It's not out there. Yeah. It's not in time. It's not out of time. It's not in the energy or out of the energy. It's not in the matter or out of the matter, or in space or out of space. Remember, when you're quiet, it's not complete. You're just quiet. It doesn't complete anything, because being quiet is not silence. Not speech is not silence. Not thinking is not silence. What is it? See, as an intellectual or academic, you're looking for that sort of back door. See, I think that reasoning is going to help you to get there faster. Like you can actually think it into happening. Hitting yourself over the head with a hammer does not eliminate pain necessarily. You can knock yourself out. I think that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, knock yourself out, trying to get there through reasoning. There is no self or reasoning that equals what it is. So you can't philosophize your way into it or analyze your way into it. It's good to think and be, I guess you might say, conscious. See? And ask questions, because it's possible that while you're asking questions, you fall into the hole.
So is
not because you want to, but because you may actually be overwhelmed by the hole in that moment. It's not something you're doing. You don't even know it's going to happen. So,
is the thinking and the philosophizing a barrier? Is that an active?
Well, it's self-serving and self-indulgent, but for most people, very necessary. So, and therefore, the teachings serve a function of bringing the karmic mind into resonance with a deeper view that enables the individual to be more open, less self-contracted, more receptive. After reading certain sacred texts, some people say they really don't know anything. That might be a form of openness, acknowledgement. They cannot know at that point. What is there to know? Right? So you can't know enlightenment. Nobody knows it. And then paradoxically, it's all there is. But it's not a thing. So good luck trying to find it. It's also not nothing. So then you get to the point of confusion, which is a good place. Confusion that may be a little bit smarter than you were before you were confused. And the reason why that shows up is because what it is, the mind cannot grasp. Hence, it is called transcendent, a spirit mind. Or, more commonly, no mind. It's like saying, shut up already. Come on.
Your comment on silence and how lack of speaking is not necessarily silence. And neither is lack of thinking, exactly. It reminded me of my experience of playing, a very high moment of playing where it felt like that silence that you talk about, that silence has not lack of sound, but lack of in the wayness.
Well, remember, memory is not it either. So, having memories is not it. Most people we know are being run by memories. Necessarily. They need to remember what they need to do, who they need to be, how they need to do this, that, whatever. See, how to function. See. Now, there's memory for that, and then there's something else that can do it even better. See. So if you preoccupy yourself with being the drummer, you miss out. That's like saying that's all you can be. When what we're talking about is beyond drumming. See? It's beyond thinking. So it's profound. And it can talk, so it's not just talk or non-talk. But some would dare say in the higher dharmas that it's reality, which is perfect. Stainless. Beyond image, imageless. So subtle, one can say it's nothing, yet for it to be nothing, the nothing of nothing, it would have to be part of everything. So you have a little bit of a paradox there, but the paradox is there to tell you thinking's not going to help you. So that's why there's something called meditation practice, right, which is like cooling down, giving up, surrender. Going beyond. Neuroses. Noise. Suffering. Distraction. Confusion relative to what could be called being stuck in between extremes. When it's not in the middle and it's not to either extreme. So you come down here to have your so-called self-mind just squished. Stepped on. You do the stepping. It's hard enough for me to talk it, so you have to do the stepping. So it becomes an internal process. Because this is not just me, the me or self here. This is a process of awakening. As you hear, you sense it. If you can hear it all. And then who's hearing? What is it that you have that enables you to hear that and someone else can't hear it? Who knows?
Particularly when I'm sitting here, I have, I guess, intuitions of experience beyond self-limitation. And they feel fantastic, like fantasy-like, to some degree.
Well, in science, it's called subtle. Maybe subtle. You start to become perceptive of the subtle. Not the invisible necessarily, or the unhearable, inaudible, but subtle. So you're talking about the interdimensionality of consciousness. And there are subtle states that precede going to sleep. That's what meditation practice more or less refers to, at the extreme end of what it is. Dream consciousness. Going beyond dreaming. Not just a dreaming, going beyond image, going beyond dreaming into reality, which is clear, light now, as it is. Suchness. It's being a mic stand with a rug. Piano. Human. And since this is a moment of practice, it is to relax and get away from your whole hustle-bustle mentality and materialism and preoccupation with business, which are all sacred and have their place. And then here, you undress, so to speak, like going to take a shower, to clean off. And it's just you singing in the the shower, right, to yourself. Or you might have music on too. So you're enjoying the washing and the purifying the water, right? The wisdom, and you have your mind on something that's very pleasing. In this case, it's ideas of maybe transcendence. It's nice music. It's not about your suffering, right? Your neuroses, your wannabe, or you have to be. See, it's about nobody. Just being in the shower and enjoying it and being cleansed, being open to the cleansing. Spiritual water, spiritual wisdom bath. And then you're brought into the dimension of tree to grace. No drums. Before practice as a form of stabilizing, integrating, body-mind, let's say. Before that, you have to deal with all kinds of fear. It's built in, not like you're creating it. Like the body is fear. The mind is also fearful. Memories are full of fears. That's where you can see more clearly how this works. It's blood fear, ancestral fear. See, time mind fear. See, all the suffering, all the memories of all the suffering of your ancestors. It's all there, and it's kind of in a soft playback. It's, as you walk through your life, and then you have déjà vus, and you have all kinds of experiences that come back. It's the mind, the memory mind, causal mind. And that's a track. You can step out of that track, as you can step out of yourself. When you're like out, in that snap you're out. Maybe for a second you're out, because you're not in it. You think you are. See? It's a custom. See? It's belief, make believe. It's memory making you believe you are what you remember. See? And that has a function in the material world, so we're not putting memory down, it's great. If you use it and it doesn't use you, it could be great. You don't want your mind cluttered all the time with memories, uncontrollable memories. I guess you might say it's madness, darkness. You need peace, you need release. You need enlightenment, right? Open, clear mind. Healing. Peace. You need peace? Not everyone wants it. Not everyone's capable of it. Sometimes they're beaten into it. They're banged into it. They're knocked into it somehow. And they have peace, even though they didn't want peace, they're at peace. So coming to here, coming to sit, selfless. There's no anxiety involved in it. There's no identity particularly involved in it. So it's not a problem. Letting go of neuroses is a process of recovering sanity, calm breathing, healing the circuits, healing the body. It's not about building neurosis or sustaining it or defending it. So it's not about self whatsoever. The mock-up to self is kind of floating. It's not real. Functional, as needed, but it's not the real. Theatrics. Oh, how are you doing? Yeah, of course I'm fine. Yeah, I'm well. I'm making money, so I'm great. Yeah, for now. Yeah. Gone. Back to zero.
And the self who practices, the self who is in a track or not in a track. The self who practices.
Maybe no self practices. Maybe no self breathes either. Depends on you. So your reference, your alignment with what it is. Originally, there's no self. Culturally, there's big self. Self-importance. Practice is about no importance except breathing, recovering, healing, and sanity. And thus a certain native power, okayness, because you're not stressing yourself out, you're not killing yourself with your thoughts, your feelings, and your problems. First and foremost, there's no self. There's all this stuff that needs to be done with or without yourself. It just needs to be done. Garbage needs to be thrown out. Doesn't require self-reflection. requires getting up, boom, taking it, boom, doing it. Going to the can, going to the bathroom, no self-reflection, just letting it flow. So then you need to see, hear, feel, know that selflessness is already the case, and selfishness is added onto it, layered on, packed in, like concrete. What for?
If there is no self who practices, for real, if practice just is, it practices, it is practice.
Well, that is then no practice. There's no practice then.
What then is choice and volition?
Then there's no choice. There's nothing of the mind at all, actually. You keep cranking out these pieces of garbage. So, you're reaching into the garbage and say, well, what about this can? It's greasy and oily and full of old beans. Smells. Well, that's what your mind is doing. That's what your self may do to prove a point. But when you are deeper than that, there's nothing to prove, nothing to demonstrate as far as that goes. So you are in the peace. Doesn't mean you can't talk, doesn't mean you can't function, you can't operate. All of that can happen and does happen, with or without the self. The revelation then, in terms of spiritual practice, is that you can do it with much more sanity without self-neuroses, which is an added level that you're cultured into believing is true of you. Is it? Anxiety is true of you. Confusion and forgetfulness is true of you. Self-division is true of you. Unhappiness is true of you. Unenlightenment is true of you. Ignorance is true of you. Discomfort is true of you. Really? Yeah, the main technique, right? Technique is self-release. Everything points to that, because you have to let your self-programming go. But you have to be able to know what that is. So you have to have at least some evolutionary progression where you can take a look at it and say, oh, yeah, that's me when I'm a fool. Yeah, that's me at my worst. So that's me being my own enemy. Say, that's me being human neuroses. Wow. How troubled I look there. Wow, look at those eyes, look at that face, look at that hairdo. Listen to that tone. Well, you have to see it. Right? And for beginners in training, they need to replace your own image with that of the yogi. Better image. The yogi in sitting, or yoga posture, or asana or something. Yeah. Yogi. Yeah. I'm not saying that's better than what you're being ordinarily, but that's a tool for certain practitioners to help downgrade their self-anxiety to like, wow, that looks calm, it looks peaceful. Well, you're finding out that you can be that too. So it's not about technique then, it's about seeing what you need to be. It's not about this. So, oh, you see that image up. You might know somewhere that you are that image, or Buddha, or Christ, or Rama, or Krishna. So, well, Close the gap. Or master, whatever you want. Close the gap. It's called transformational becoming. And it just happens. It's not like you have to do it. It can do it itself. But that depends on what you are attached to, what you're clinging to, what you're holding on to, and believing is critical to you being self. Technique. Yeah, consider ages of generations in the dark. Without wisdom and without any way of properly releasing suffering. So to come into practice means you have this huge, huge ocean of karma to put to rest. And the harder it is for you, that means the huger the karmic debt, and the more monstrous the family karma is in its influencing you to not practice. So as you keep coming back to a form of, let's say, disciplined, regular practice, some would call it mindfulness, I call it soundfulness. It doesn't matter what you call it, but it just means stopping and collecting yourself, so to speak. Not yourself, but collecting, integrating your forces. Yeah. Not personal, but just your body, your limbs, your legs, your mind, your nerves, right? Your blood, your body parts. Right? And putting all that to peace, to rest. That's what it is. Not easy. For some, it takes ages to get to that point. And then you enter a life, after so many lifetimes, this is theory, where you assume practice is like a fish going back to water. And then that's what you do. Because you have accumulated the karma, see? And momentum. And so practice is easy. When it's difficult, then what you're doing is recreating. So it's good that it's difficult, but you have to keep going so that you create a clearance for you. You're working towards what you know you should be, in a sense. See, not in terms of image, but where you feel. You want to be feeling that peace. You want to realize that peace or make it real for you. Not make believe, but make it real for you. See? To say, now I am that. It takes a long time. Maybe a flash. But you're calm, clear, collected, and ready to work. With more effectiveness and more ability and more power in some cases, because you're not stressed out and exhausted. That's good practice.
So the difference between 30 minutes ago and now, 30 minutes ago, there was a certain urgency, a certain sense of needing to be almost broken of my karma, like I needed to break through an egg shell and get out and leave, walk free.
That's a mix of neuroses and maybe a little bit of insight.
Yeah. And the effect.
Because you're already free, but you're not living free. See, so you have to come here to realize that you're already, chilled out because you came to a person who may be too chilled out to be any other way. It's too old. See? And so, that's what it is. It's recognition. See?
Yeah. And the effect of sitting has been where peace becomes much more a reality, much less a fantasy, a sense of peace, a sense of
Peace.
yeah,
Yes, yes. Peace is the like original
yeah.
peace, or some would call it true nature. Here we call it hue nature. It's original already. It's native. See, it's the bottom line. See.
And whether or not anything shocking, anything broke.
Right, as I said, it's already broken. Open. You're talking about openness,
Yeah.
being broken open. That's like that. It's awareness. See. It's already done. You need to get to where it's already done, because when you come here, your satisfaction and gratification is because you start in one state of neuroses, and then after we finish our talk, you feel more relieved. See, it's like going to the doctor, and you know everything seems to be okay on the way out. See? But is it really a change, or is it more or less recognizing something that you are okay anyway? See, you're okay with or without the appearance of pain. See. Deeper, there's nothing. There's clear, deeper. Not to believe that. You have to experience that. The body is about the pain, but nobody is pain. The mind is about suffering, neuroses, but nobody is that.